The insurance companies acknowledge it. The doctors, the medical journals acknowledge it. It is a disease. And once somebody crosses into that place of addiction, there is no choice. I laid on a couch for 2 years every day praying that I did not have to do this again. And no matter how hard I tried not to, I couldn't stop on my own.
Hi, I'm JW Wiseman, and welcome to the Stay Curious Show. This is where we explore the intersection of the non-alcoholic movement through business and culture. Today, I want to welcome our guest, Mickey from Ben's Friends. Welcome, Mickey.
Hello, everybody. My name's Mickey Bakst. I'm the co-founder of Ben's Friends, along with Steve Palmer. We're based in Charleston, South Carolina. I am a 48-year veteran of restaurants, 41 of those years sober, and Ben's Friends is about giving a community to anybody in the food and beverage industry who is looking for a path to sobriety.
That's incredible. And how long has this organization been in existence?
We founded Ben's Friends in 2016 after a couple of specific incidences. Steve and I always got together, and we found that every time we got together, we talked about somebody else who had either lost their lives to alcohol and drugs, destroyed their careers, destroyed their family due to alcohol and drugs. And every week we talked about somebody else. And then two things happened. One to me, where I was doing a dinner with some pretty well-known national figures, and a young kid cooked a dinner for us, and he was cooking for icons and his heroes. And that night he went and drank and drugged himself to death. And a couple of weeks later, Steve was opening a restaurant, and a friend of his flew in to help him in the kitchen. There were three other sober chefs working in that restaurant, but Ben didn't tell Steve he had been in treatment 4 or 5 times, and Ben didn't show up to the restaurant. Steve went and found him dead in his hotel room. And that was the final impetus that told us both we have to do something. So that was November of 2016.
And, I feel how hurtful that has been and the scars that it's left in the industry. But for you to see that as like the light that maybe the industry needs to recognize that addiction is a serious problem. And beyond that, community is something that you've been building with Ben's Friends, so that people who want to choose the path of sobriety, and everybody should choose for themselves where they go, you've helped build community among people who are trying to go onto the path of who they want to be. And it's so incredible. I've heard lots of stories of this from different chapters across the country. How many cities is Ben's Friends in currently?
I think it's 25 live meetings, but an important thing to know is that there are daily Zoom meetings where people come from all over the country. And I'm proud to say we now have some people coming from Canada, Great Britain, the Netherlands, Spain, and Germany who pop in to listen to it. So we're spreading pretty quickly, but pretty
That's so
quickly.
good.
But I want to go back to something you said earlier about the industry. The industry has known that there has been an issue for decades and decades and decades, but nobody wanted to do anything about it. In 1996, I was featured in an article in Restaurant Nation's News, a 6-page article about the hidden disease in restaurants. I was literally the centerfold. You opened it up, and there was my picture looking through a wine glass. And the whole thing was about the damage alcohol was doing to our industry. That was 1996. When that article came out, I didn't receive one phone call from anybody.
Not
saying,
one.
Not one. saying what we can do. And for the next 20 plus years, people didn't talk about it, but everybody knew. Everybody in the industry knew that it was a serious problem.
In America, even beyond the industry more broadly, there's this conception that addiction is the addict's fault, and that responsibility, it's like a personal failing or something if you get addicted to something. But let's be real. People are addicted to sugar, they're addicted to caffeine, they're addicted to alcohol, they're addicted to cigarettes, many other narcotics. And the thing is that we need to stop blaming the victims for these things and just realize that they need help, they need community, and it's not their fault that, like, yes, they can make different choices, but for an addict, that once they're addicted, this is something that non-addicts have a really hard time understanding, I think, is
Yeah.
that some people, not all people, it's not a choice in the moment when they're actively addicted to something. They have to break out of that cycle. And the ways that they break out of that cycle, there's many different ways, and that's up to the individual and their friends and their community. And the fact that you're building those communities so that people can have new networks is so crucial, and just to talk about it generally. Because, like, talking about it, like in that 1996 article, that plants the seeds, that plants the seeds there so that hopefully people start to talk about it and figure out that there are multiple paths here, and we need to help people find which one is for them.
Got
You
it.
know?
I want
Yeah.
to go back to the first thing you said about people blaming. Number one, let's be honest. In this day and age, ignorance reigns supreme, if you ask me.
Same as
In
it
our,
ever was, my friend.
yeah, same as it ever was. Ignorance is reigning supreme. To those that say it's the addict's fault, I will point blank just say simply go to any medical journal. The insurance companies acknowledge it, the doctors, the medical journals acknowledge it. It is a disease. And once somebody crosses into that place of addiction, there is no choice. I laid on a couch for 2 years every day praying that I did not have to do this again. And no matter how hard I tried not to, I couldn't stop on my own. I tried and I tried and I tried. And the addict, once they cross that line, there's a physiological thing that happens in the brain. And you mentioned sugar. It's just like sugar. You take an MRI of a person's head after they've taken sugar, and you see the spots that literally light up. It's the same thing with alcohol. We can't stop once we get started. So, and then as far as the community, there's many forms of, and I support any way anybody chooses to get sober. I got sober in AA. There was no Ben's friends. There was nothing else. But many people have issues with AA for their own reasons. We believe that we're not a religious organization. We believe that the most important word to help you get well is the word we, and that comes through community. And it is community, having people there to support you at 2 o'clock in the morning when your hands are on a bottle of booze and you're caressing it like your favorite lover, and you're sitting there thinking, I need it, I need it. We want to be there so you can pick up the phone and say, help. It's community that got me sober. It's the community that got anybody I know who has long-term sobriety sober to keep them sober.
That's so cool. I love when people come up with their own solutions to things to find how it's going to work for them and other people like them. Because there's, how one person, like you said it when you were like, AA is, for some people, but there wasn't anything like Ben's friends, and there wasn't anything like, now there's non-alcoholic coaches, throughout the country, and people that do this professionally, to help people, and so many other paths too. It's really incredible.
I keep thinking I should become a coach. I could make a lot of money. I just can't. I can't make money personally off of other people's hurt. For me, it doesn't fit. But the coaches are working. AA, I want to make it a point to your audience that AA is an extraordinary organization. It saved my life. It saved Steve's life. It has saved millions of people's lives around the world. So even though we don't follow all of the tenets of AA, we encourage people once they've gotten comfortable being in a group to at least try it because there's great benefits to it. So I wanted to say that to your audience. You know,
Absolutely. And Ruby Warrington, she was here at Club Curious where I am right now. This is our little, Curious Elixirs sober speakeasy in Brooklyn. She was here and she was talking about AA and she said something that resonates with what you said, which is it's an amazing organization, but it wasn't for her. She didn't see herself reflected in it, but she said it's been incredible how it's actually kind of like a self-perpetuating anarchic group because it's not led by a church or anything. It's like a set of principles that got put forth and
right,
it resonated with a certain core group of people and they've kept it going for generations now.
right.
Um, Kind of like Burning Man is kind of like this anarchic, like principle first kind of organization as well. And a lot of times I feel like the authenticity of that needs to be respected, even if it doesn't fit with every single cohort of people, like it
Listen,
should be respected.
I love a medium rare ribeye. And I have friends who never want to taste a bite of meat, that they're vegetarian or they're vegan. You know what? We all have our own path. And like I said a moment ago, I couldn't give a what path somebody takes. I just care that they get sober. If they don't like AA, there's Ben's Friends, there's Dharma Recovery, there's sober, there's so secular recovery, there's NA, there's all kinds of different options. There's therapists, there's counselors. The important thing to me is that somebody who is struggling finds whatever it is that works for them. And in Ben's Friends, we're open to encouraging people to try everything so that they can find the right path. If
Yeah, it's an
somebody leaves,
experiment. Trying these
it's
different
an
things is an experiment.
absolute. If
Yeah.
somebody leaves Ben's Friends and goes to AA or goes to a alcohol counselor or what a coach, whatever it is, I applaud them. If we help them get to that stage, we did our job.
Right.
So, and then there's those that stay in Ben's Friends and do nothing else, and now they're sober 6 years on it.
And you focus specifically on the hospitality industry and the restaurant industry, as kind of like the launching point for this. And so would you say you're like a lifelong, devotee of food? Like what first got you interested in the food?
You know something? I have had the honor of standing side by side with the greatest chefs in this country over the last 30 years. The greatest, the superstars. But for me, it was never about just the food, and it still isn't. It's
Or
about hospitality. For me, what was magical the first day that I ever was in a restaurant working was the joy that I saw on people's faces and the joy that I had the ability to add to. I couldn't care. You know, I say this 1,000 times over. You could take the three greatest chefs in the world, they could prepare the greatest meal that anybody has ever prepared. And if it's not served with warmth and with heart and in an atmosphere that you like, you're never going back. But
right.
you can take a good meal, just a good meal, but if it's served in a place that you love, that people treat you well, that you feel special, you're going to go back every time. So, what got me into it was hospitality and the magic of creating experiences for people, which I love passionately.
Well, let me ask you, what was one of the first hospitality experiences that blew your mind?
Well, I can pinpoint it back to a guy named Sammy at a restaurant when I was a young kid. Well, I mean,
What was
we
the
used
restaurant?
it
Where are
was
we talking
called
about?
Mario's in Detroit, and I'm sorry, Lolly's in Detroit. Mario's came later, and we used to go there when I was a kid. My parents took us, and this guy made my brother and I feel like superstars. I can't tell you what we ate. I can't tell you if the food was good or bad, but I can tell you that we walked out of there feeling special. And that's magic.
That
And
is
that's
bad.
the magic of hospitality. You've got great, the great chefs in the world, the Eric Repairs, the Danielle Ballous, the Alain Ducasse, but you have to have them, and they know this, in a room that makes you feel like you've arrived.
That's so true. I mean, you
So
feel that when
that's my
you walk into
hospitality pitch. Huh?
you feel that when you walk into Le Bernardin and
Yeah.
you like if you have a big party at one of those big round tables and the bar is such a scene and the way they treat you is so warm, like you said. It's
Yep.
very warm. So shout out to that guy at Lully's. What was his name?
Sammy.
Sammy at Lully's in Detroit. I love
Yep.
that. And
A long ass time ago.
yep, yep. Yeah. I mean, I felt that way going to a Greek place with my dad when we would go to this place called Nick the Greeks in my hometown, back in, probably, 85, a long time ago. And just having the Saganaki and how they put on a show, it's theater and
It's
it's taking
theater.
care of
Yeah.
people. It's theater where you take care of people. It's kind of like this incredible amalgamation of all the things I like, design, food, music, people, service, money,
Yeah.
like it's just and
And
fun.
and
It's so
it's
fun. It's
it's
community.
the theater is a good word. It's entertainment, and that also ties in to why there's so much addiction in the industry, because people are working around people who are celebrating every day. They're toasting, they're opening bottles of wine, popping corks of champagne. They're laughing. There you go. They're laughing. They're drinking Curious Elixir.
Well, that's
Uh,
why we're trying to infiltrate and celebrate with something different. I mean, this
yeah,
is core to why like our bottles are brown, why it's a fancy bottle, it's a luxury product, but one that, people can celebrate life with, like no one's going to bat an eye and it's nobody's business whether you're drinking alcohol or not alcohol if you want it that way or you can
right,
talk about it. I tried to make this a choose your own adventure, where it's like you can have something to celebrate friends with. It doesn't matter if they're drinking a glass of champagne because you can have Curious number 7 or in my
right,
case Curious number 3 today. you know
right,
but that's key because so the celebration needs to be divorced from alcohol for the people that need a different reason to celebrate. They can celebrate being sober with our stuff, you know.
hmm
But one of the craziest things to me is that it's taken years to get restaurateurs on board with this. Now they're starting to open up. And, I wonder if you could speak to that. Like, have you noticed that like there's been a sea change on menus, like offering non-alcoholic options now? Because you still like to go out and eat. Like what are you
Oh,
seeing?
all the time. Let me tell you, I was just at Tales of the Cocktail, and which is the biggest conference of bartenders, I believe, in the States. Am I correct on that?
It's either that or BarCon, but probably Tails. It's probably the biggest.
Yeah. And I was absolutely amazed at how many NA brands were there and how many seminars there were about NA cocktails, mocktails, whatever you call it, spiritless drinks. The reality is there is a shift, and it is happening in a big way. Restaurants are pouring Curious Elixir. Restaurants are offering alternatives to booze. And honestly, the ones that aren't are falling behind. They
They're losing
really,
money.
they're losing money. They really and truly are falling behind. Because if I have a choice between tap water and a Curious Elixir or one of the others that are on the menu, I'm going to try something different. I've had enough tap water in my life. you know? I am seeing a real gentle shift that is going to keep growing. And you know it, the big liquor companies are looking at it. There's a reason because it is catching on. People want to be healthier. People are tired of that hangover. People but they still want something celebratory to drink.
Yeah.
And so I think you're at the right place in the right time. And I think what you're going to see personally as a company is some tremendous growth ahead.
Yeah, it's been wild the last 5 years because we've been doing this almost a decade. Like next year, it'll be 10 years. And I feel like we're maybe at just the end of the first act of this opera. You know what I
Oh,
mean? Like,
yeah.
like there definitely was a sea change at Tails this year. We had a couple people down there, and Kristen Bear, who's actually at Creative Sobriety. She's an incredible content creator, and she's a brand rep for us in Nashville. She did an event for us down there, and with the Shopify team, and there were like 15 other brands there, and
Yes.
it was great, and some of the best bartenders in the world, and incredible people. Like bar culture is starting to catch up now, and that's why like I'm just thrilled by what to see what people are doing with it now because some of the people we met down there, they're using it, Curious Elixirs as ingredients, in their own fancy cocktails. And then other places that might be like your average neighborhood gastropub is just pouring it on the rocks and adding a garnish and you're done. It's like
Yeah.
it's your own adventure. Make your own if you're like a super highbrow mixologist, or just make it easy. So anyway, I could go on and on about Curious, and I want to hear more about Ben's friends. What's going on with the daily Zooms? Like, how do people find you? And
It's bensfriendshope.com. And I say with great pride today, we launched a new website. I think it looks good. It's easy access. The only thing people need to do is sign on to Zoom to be
yep,
able to get it. We don't charge anybody, whether it's the employer, the employee. We charge nobody anything
love
for
that.
Ben's Friends. We're truly a community of people who care and people who have been there before. But it's bensfriendshope.com. And you can go to our website. You can click on any meeting. You can see which cities we're in live. You can find out what time those meetings are and where they're at. It's all there on the website. And or equally as important, certainly not more importantly, you can donate on there so that we can keep spreading the word. We
Yeah.
can keep
Anybody who's
it.
listening to this right now and you want to donate, do it right now. Like go give $10 to Ben's friends. If you've had a friend who could have used this help, I encourage you to do it right now. Don't delay. Life is all about action. Go do it to bensfriendshope.com right now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of
You know the
course.
sadness of what you just said, that you might have a friend. I would say that at least half of the donations we get online are in memoriam. Somebody donating to because somebody they loved or a family member of a friend lost their lives to addiction. That's half of our donations.
And it's so tough because it touches so many people, and that's why it's important to get the word out and to talk about it, not hide this stuff in the shadows, and just normalize the fact that this happens, and
Yeah.
that people then and that resources are there to help. So if you're listening to this, go check out Ben's friends if you want to talk to somebody else who has a similar experience to you without judgment, I think
Without that, I'm glad you said without judgment, because what I was going to say is I know for 6 years I struggled before I got sober. I tried countless times. I knew I had a problem. There's a lot of nervousness about going anywhere, asking for help. The nice thing about Zoom for people who are just at the point where they know they've got a problem, they're afraid of doing anything, you can come in anonymously. You don't need to turn on your camera. You don't need to have your right name. You can put anything you want in there, and you can sit back and listen until you're ready to come, for lack of better words, come out and let us meet you in Zoom. But we have people who come for weeks and don't ever turn on their camera and don't ever talk. And then all of a sudden they say, I was nervous. I've been coming for weeks. Thank you. I'm here now. So if you're questioning it, come and listen. If you know you've got a problem, but you're afraid, come and listen anonymously. And we will be there to support you, to carry you, to help you on the journey to sobriety.
That's so beautiful. And what a gift. What a gift. Thank you for providing it for everyone out there.
Thanks, John.
Of course. And, we're going to enter the lightning round here in a moment. But
Ah,
I know you're going to watch out.
I just got jolted.
It's coming for you, but we're going to have that in a moment. But is there anything else that you wanted to share about Ben's friends or anything else that we should cover about your work and life before we go to the lightning round?
No, my work in life today is about helping those struggling with addictions. So, what I'll say is if you think you got a problem, you probably do. So, come, try it out, give it a chance, and see how it feels. And we will be there for you. That's it. We have one purpose only, to help the F&B worker struggling with addiction find freedom from the bondage of their addiction. That's our goal.
That's
So
wonderful.
lightning, hit me.
First question is, what is your first powerful music memory?
The
Shangri-La.
Shangri-La. I met them at the candy store. They were the opening act for my first concert, which was the Beach Boys.
Wow.
And that was probably in 1964 or 63. Yes, I'm older, but I will never forget that first concert.
The Shangri-Las. So what do they look like in your mind when you're seeing them?
Beautiful, beautiful women with long hair in pinkish vests, tight pants, and singing I Met Him at the Candy Store.
Wow. I love that. That's epic. That is.
By the way, I just want you to know music has been a really important part of my sobriety. And when I work with new people, I send them a song every single morning. And I start with the first day you need to jump into a new life. I send Van Halen's Jump. The second day, I say you can't do it alone, but we together can do it. I send them with a little help from my friends. The third day, it's about gratitude. It's a beautiful morning. And I go on and on and on.
That's so great. I love that. Music is such a powerful, and important piece of our lives. I mean, it's in our blood. It's in
Yes.
my ancestors' blood. It's incredible. And that's one of the reasons why I love, asking that question. And you told us about your first food memory, but what is the one food that you can't live without?
Okay, world. I love a great hot dog.
Amazing. A great
Yeah.
hot dog. How
But
do you
it has to have the right bun. It has to have the seeded bun. It has to be
Chicago
warm.
style?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay,
My
so you
six
you
my
want salad, you
60th
want salad with your hot dog.
yeah, my 60th birthday, every chef in Charleston, pretty much all the good ones, wanted to cook for me, and all I wanted to do was go to Scoogy Dogs to eat hot dogs.
I love it. I love it. That's the one food. Okay, cool. Um, and
Second
then
one would be Ben and Jerry's ice cream.
Ben and Jerry's.
Ice
Okay.
cream, yeah.
Well, wait, next time you're in New York, I'm taking you to Ample Hills so I can blow your friggin' mind.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
game. I love ice cream.
But yeah, so like, and then, the final question is, again, of course, because music is such a powerful one. It's, what is the music moment that you will carry with you until the day that you die?
I've been blessed to see the Rolling Stones, the Doors. I've seen three of the Beatles. I've seen the Who. I've seen every great rock group of my generation. But the one that I probably will remember the most is the original Motown Review, when on one stage was Smokey Robinson, Stevie Wonder, Diana Ross and the Supremes, the Temptations, the Four Tops, Marvin Gaye. They bring out Little Wonder. He only played the drums and the harmonica, and they would have to drag him off the drums. And it was magical because you would be in a room. It was the Fox Theater in Detroit, and you would be in a room again, 1964, and you would be white, black, big, old, young, small, everybody together standing up. I will never forget those moments as long as I live.
The Motown Review, Fox Theater. What
The
an
original Motown Review when they were all there.
Oh wow. That is epic. That
That's
is
one of the benefits of being my age is I got to see that,
yeah. Like I
you
got
know?
to see James Brown play in Tulsa, Oklahoma, um, in the late 90s. And it blew my mind because that was one of an early music memory for me was listening to James Brown in my dad's, small, tiny little house and having I Feel Good just blow my mind. And then seeing him, 10 years later perform with his full band and everything, the way that these bands, were synchronized and all
Ab-
together. And Stevie Wonder, still an incredible performer, but when he was on the drums, I can only imagine how good that was.
If
That's
you go back and listen to Fingertips that he recorded when he was 12 years old, everybody say, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's unbelievable that this kid at 12 years old wrote that song and performed it live.
Wow. I'm going to go back and look that. We're going to have to link that in the show notes as well, along with bensfriendshope.com, which is the best way to reach
Right.
me and the community. And, we are proud to, be a small supporter of Ben's Friends. And I encourage you all to donate as well. It's important work. And for those of us who have worked in hospitality, which everybody in America should work in hospitality at some point. It's so crucial to learning how to deal with people. But addiction is a real issue, as you brought up. So thank you for doing the work that you do. We so appreciate you being on the Stay Curious show here today. And yeah, I hope that we can get together next time you're in New York and we'll play some Motown records. Okay.
I like that. And thanks for inviting me. Please say hi to Rachel, will you? Because she connected us, and I am grateful for it and grateful for Curious Elixir. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Take care, guys.
Are you curious?